I'm trying to move my mouse with my new Neuralink. Just kidding. I'm just using the head scratcher. But I hope I caught your attention because today we're going to ask the question, is AI the new version of telepathy? When it comes to AI, people are really underestimating its value in making decisions. I mean, that's really what we want computers to do. I mean, most of us. We want the computers to give us information so that we can make better decisions. But who's the we, and where's the information coming from? Would you be comfortable if somebody could understand that you were incredibly in an incredible state of depression and therefore they can use it to sell you different goods? What if you were a politician and you wanted to understand what really are the deep worries and concerns of your community? Is that a good or a bad thing? Who gets to get access to this information is really the kind of questions that people are going to have to decide about what AI is going to do, especially when it comes to the questions of ethics. In and of itself, you could ask an AI algorithm today, what is ethical? How would they make that decision? In previous episodes, we talked about whether or not AI is an oracle or a mirror. And if an algorithm is making decisions off of the mirrored data input that it learned from human history, what will it interpret as ethical? So when we're talking about understanding what's going on in the world around us through the eyes of how we're using technology, using it as a telepathic tool might not be the best way to start off, but it could certainly be where we end. So today we're going to talk about 3 different categories, just like always: work, education, and what's going on in government, and fourth, what's going on in technology, to understand the actual decisions and how AI is being used to understand intentions of people, of individuals, and how we're using it to make decisions. All right, let's start with education. 2 topics that are big, or have been big for really almost a year, honestly, but they're really coming to a collision, if you will, because decisions are going to have to be made. One is removing affirmative action out of what it means to enroll somebody into a college or a university. Where is this decision coming from? What is the federal government trying to accomplish for us as a society? On one hand, they're going to be using data to pretty much evaluate why the federal government would have to be involved in those kind of rules anyways, because human beings should have a better understanding of whether or not to treat each other fairly by now, right? And the other part to the conversation is debt forgiveness. Well, both of them are really related to a lot of historical systemic processes that we've been going through in the past 50 years. But if AI-driven data and intelligence is telling people who are making laws and people who are deciding how to fund other people's education, if the data is telling them that human behavior needs to change and we need to change the laws to encourage people to go along with this change in order for us to survive, we might want to take a moment to understand them differently. Some of you may have had a reaction to eliminating affirmative reaction as a way backward from racial equality. And almost anybody who knows me knows that I am all about equitable life. And I actually kind of laughed at it, like, good, finally. You don't need an admissions process to get educated, to become knowledgeable, to get your goal job, not in 2024. So the gatekeeper of what affirmative action was supposed to help, loosen up in the admissions process, I don't know if it really even applies. And then the debt part to education, especially with what we do in people work to make sure people make smart investments in education, what kind of debt are we talking about? Most companies are willing to close the skills gap and support human beings to become their goal employee. And of course, pepelwerk makes that possible. And a lot of funding, whether or not it's for the most expensive public school or private school, wherever you're choosing to purchase your education, now the game of education and learning is just who has the right content and who has the right teacher, and less about the prestige itself that really people were chasing that warranted making the decision of the debt in the first place. So I think what's happening, if people were considering what kind of information is being used to encourage these changes in policies and laws and how we kind of behave with education, I encourage you to give it a second thought. How will people be using information and data to change how we get access to employment, work, different kinds of exchanges of cash for time and skills and abilities? Well, right now with the EEOC, they are challenging, and I can't believe they're challenging it. I understand some parts to it, but another part, I'm like, from an HR perspective, I'm like, I can't believe you're going to do this to another prohibitive function of the most critical part of our existence, which is getting and giving and maintaining employment. The EEOC is saying we need to control AI because we don't know what kind of data it's going to give us about people that will create bias. What have you been approving for 50 plus years with the resume? Come on. That's a little bit of a oxymoron for me. I can't even fathom why the EEOC would have a position that AI would make things worse. The whole resume process, even the thinking of the tool as an acceptable way of evaluating somebody's capability to do an in-demand job, let alone a job that just got created last month, is ludicrous. That's of course my personal opinion, but for you as a viewer, I mean, how in the world do you think that AI could possibly be used to make things worse when it comes to HR, recruiting, getting a job, giving a job, and being able to maintain work? I certainly want to know your guys' opinion on that one. All right, so we've talked about education, we've talked about work. Both of those actually cover what the government is doing within those two different domains. But of course, let's get to tech. There have been 3 major announcements from the legacy technology companies that have dominated our lives really for the past 50 plus years. Apple, anything really related to Elon Musk, and anything related to Microsoft. So Apple decided to opt out of their car production. Why would they be doing that? Obviously, they found out that maybe automobiles weren't their thing, but why were they chasing it in the first place? What Apple has done really well for a very long time is understand human behavior. So they didn't really ever need AI to be announced as some way of getting to know their customers' deepest needs and being able to design products to be able to kind of keep them in the Apple ecosystem. They kind of just did that incrementally. And it's been interesting how Apple's business model kind of keeps and maintains all of the lessons learned of how their customers behave, what they think, all of their data. And what does that have to do with how AI is being used for telepathy and their decision to not be in the car business? Well, most of it has to do with just another access point to your life. I mean, if you have BioWare from Apple, if you have Apple as your phone piece of your phone system, or if you have a Mac as your computer system, or if you have any other Apple widget that you've been using to basically do really any component of life, it's just basically rounding out their access to the whole person that is you, which it goes to another episode that we talked about, which is your digital DNA. Good connection. How I started this video was the concept of the Neuralink. Actually, one of our pepelwerk investors gave me the book of Elon Musk and how he kind of just always lives to innovate and really is probably inspired by some of the most crazy movies of the 80s, I'm not gonna lie. But the Neuralink is something that has been worked on for a long time, and it's just basically connecting computer science to our brain. I don't know why it freaks people out so much, because we've been doing that with prosthetics for almost 20 years now. So if people could actually use a different type of prosthetic to just understand and enhance their brain's function to make better decisions, You know, I'm not sure if that's using AI as a form of telepathy or just using a piece of hardware and technology to make you wiser in making decisions. There's some things that we probably should think about with how Mr. Musk is going to release that technology and how human beings are actually going to end up using it. But this one, I think the thing is called the Microsoft Copilot alter ego called Supremacy AI. There's a lot of conversation and people of course are having a lot of reaction to anything related to technology to take some sort of nomenclature of supremacy. That's kind of bold for Microsoft for sure, but maybe that's the point of Microsoft because they really want you to engage with this different type of conversation tool, this alter ego that we also introduced in our data DNA sequence. So it's kind of a lot of stuff going on that seems to be connected. There's a lot of hardware and software and what they're being used for and how they're being used is directly related to really what's going to be our digital DNA. If you have been exposed to Neuralink, if you have actually played with this Supremacy AI thing from Microsoft Copilot, what are your thoughts? And most importantly, how do you think it's going to impact your future ability, your children's future ability to work, earn, learn, and connect? I am Kim Kelly, the CEO and co-founder of pepelwerk. Thanks for joining me.